Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome. Manitoba Start is the leading provider of career services to newcomers in the province of Manitoba and connects businesses to a world-class workforce. I would like to welcome you all to this Labor Market Connection webinar, a series of live broadcasted events designed to assist you in entering the Manitoba labor market. To begin, Manitoba Start operates from Treaty 1 territory, the traditional land of the Anishinaabe, Cree, Oji-Cree, Dakota, and Dene people, and homeland of Métis people. We acknowledge that our water is sourced from Shoal Lake 41st Nation. Acknowledging this truth is important, yet only a small part in cultivating strong relationships with Indigenous communities. Today's webinar is focusing on the Manitoba Teachers Society. My name is Eda Can. I am Labor Market Connections Coordinator here at Manitoba Start, and I will be your host for today's webinar.
Bonjour tout le monde, je suis Rabha Mazer, je travaille pour Manitoba Start en tant que traductrice en français et je suis ici pour vous aider avec toutes les questions que vous aurez. Bienvenue encore et merci beaucoup.
Given the large number of participants who joined this webinar, we have muted your microphone to allow for better clarity and less interference. Before we begin, I will be going over a couple of housekeeping items. You can use the raised hand feature to indicate that you have a question or comment. To do this, you can click on the Participants button in the meeting controls, find the raised hand icon next to your name, and click on it. This will notify us that we have a raised hand. Teams webinars provide a Q&A feature that allows attendees to ask questions specifically in the Q&A panel. To access this, click on the More Options, 3 dots button in the meeting controls and select Q&A. You can then type your question in the Q&A panel. Before I introduce our presenter for today, I would like to run a few polls to get to know you better. So the first poll asks, are you registered with Manitoba Start? Yes or no? I will give you a moment to answer. %67 said yes and 33% said no. And on our second poll today, do you need help with a resume, cover letter, or interview preparation? Yes or no? I will give you a moment to answer. %50 said yes and 50% said no. And on our third poll today, where are you joining us from today? Northern Manitoba, Southern Manitoba, Winnipeg, outside of Canada? I'll give you a moment to answer. We will now close the poll and I'll share the answers with you. 9% said Northern Manitoba, 9% said Southern Manitoba, 82% said Winnipeg. And on our last poll today, what is your reason for attending this webinar? Are you an internationally educated professional, settlement worker, career coach, or other? Again, I will give you a moment to answer. 89% said internationally educated professional and 11% said other. Thank you everyone for participating in the polls. Today's webinar is with the Manitoba Teachers Society. This webinar will offer valuable insights for internationally educated teachers seeking certification in Manitoba. Participants will receive an overview of teacher certification process. This session will also explore employment options available while pursuing certification, highlight professional learning opportunities for EATs, and share inspiring success stories for teachers who have navigated through the journey. So please welcome Sherry Jones from Manitoba Teachers Society. Over to you, Sherry.
Thank you very much. Bear with me for a moment as I find my slide deck. Can I confirm that you are seeing the slide deck accurately?
Yes, we can, Sherry.
Perfect. Okay. So thank you again. I'm joining you today from Treaty 1 territory in Winnipeg, and I recognize that there's some folks from outside of the city as well. So welcome everyone. My name's Sherry Jones. I'm a staff officer with the Manitoba Teachers Society. I'm actually currently in a department head role in the Professional and French Language Services Department. I just want to clarify that this presentation, because there was a previous presentation done by the Professional Certification Unit, that the request from me today was to present more about the Manitoba Teachers Society and the work that we do in strengthening the public education system. So what I'm going to talk about today is the role of MTS in public education. I'm also going to talk about our rights and responsibilities as teacher professionals and the expectations for professional conduct. And as it's outlined in the MTS Code of Professional Practice, which is law in the province of Manitoba. And then if I have time in my presentation, I will talk about the difference between private and professional behaviors, because some of these are the conflicts that many new professionals face, and we feel that this would be helpful. So MTS, Manitoba Teachers Society, going forward, I'm just going to say MTS. That's the acronym for the organization. The building you see on the screen right now is the building which is located on Portage, at the corner of Portage and Harcourt. And this is the building that represents and supports 16,000 teachers across Manitoba. So even if you're not in the metro area, please know that our supports are available to all Manitoba educators who are working in public schools. And we have just over 16,000 members. Our mission as an organization is threefold. First of all, we are served with protecting the welfare of teachers and ensuring that teachers are safe and able to do their work as professionals in schools. Secondly, we work to promote and advocate for the status of the teaching profession. To be a teacher in Manitoba and in Canada is held with high regard, and we work to ensure that teachers are, that the teaching status is held as such. And then thirdly, we advocate for the cause of public education. And I always say that any issue related to education, MTS is involved in our province in some form or other, whether it be consultation or advocacy or being at the table in another way, MTS is always involved in promoting a strong public education. I will also note, I forgot to mention at the beginning, questions we will save for the end. So if you do have questions while I'm presenting, just maybe jot them down. I would really like to take your questions at the end of the presentation. Okay, this is organizational chart, and I do not expect you to memorize this, but I'm sharing this to show the complex system that operates within the building that you saw on the previous screen. So we have at the very top our MTS members, 16,000 teachers who work in public schools, pay union dues to have the support and services offered by our organization, and we hold our members in very high regard, and that's why they're at the top of our organizational chart. Below them, we have a variety of sectors, but I'll just note that essentially we have an operations wing, which include about 80 staff who work in the building on Portage Avenue to support full-time staff who support the work of teachers in schools across the province. And then we have an oversight wing, and that is made up of our provincial executive and our local associations. And many of those folks are elected and volunteer educators who feel compelled and committed to the causes of our organization and do their work to support the organization. I would be happy to have conversations, and I will share my contact information at the end of the presentation. If anybody's interested in learning more about this, I'm happy to have those conversations with folks, especially if you're interested, if you are a public school teacher and you'd like to get involved in your professional organization. We'd be happy to speak to you about that. So MTS does many things, and like I gave the overview of our 3 pillars. The first and probably most notable is around collective agreements. So MTS holds the bargaining certificate for teachers, public school teachers in our province, and we actually just settled this summer a historic provincial agreement. Previous to this summer, we had 37 different collective agreements that were negotiated between local associations and the school division. And this summer, we had our very first provincial agreement. So if you are a teacher working in a public school in our province, you will fall under the provincial agreement with some exceptions. Now we have the English provincial agreement, and then we have a separate agreement for our Francophone members working in the Division Franco-Manitobaine. So our Francophone members have a separate collective agreement. And then we have a couple locals on Northern Reserves that are federally funded, and we support them with their collective agreements. But the vast majority of our members are now going to fall under a provincial agreement. And what you see on the screen is a link to this agreement. Essentially, what the collective agreement does is it outlines working conditions and compensation for teachers in schools. So that is a big, tall order for my colleagues in our teacher welfare department and our bargaining, my bargaining colleagues. And that's work that the organization does on teachers' behalf. We also offer benefits, long-term and short-term benefits. So to become a teacher, public school teacher, comes with the security of knowing that if something were to happen that would compromise your ability to continue working, there are supports in place to allow you to continue to earn some wages, your wages. There's also a pension. Teachers in Manitoba have a relatively healthy pension, and it's strong thanks to our partners at TRAF. And so, when teachers start working in our province, they learn quickly that they have that pension because the pension deductions get taken off of the salaries. But that's a really important compensation and benefit that teachers have in Manitoba to have a strong pension. And like I mentioned, working conditions are dictated through the collective agreement. Things like the working day, how long teachers are expected to work, when the school day starts and ends, an uninterrupted lunch hour, prep time to plan and prepare for student learning. All of those pieces fall under the collective agreement, in addition to laws and policies that are set out by our governments that dictate working conditions. So this is always an interesting, an image that folks find interesting. And again, I'm happy to take questions at the end, but what I will say for today is that typically teachers who are graduating from a provincial institution, education institution in Manitoba, and to become certified in Manitoba, generally folks are falling under a class 5 on this salary grid. And this is a little bit visionary because, as you can see, this is a harmonized grid that's going to take effect in July of 2026. We're in a transition period where we're moving from those regional, divisional salary grids to a provincial collective agreement. And so there's a bit of a transition period. So I'm sharing this because it's the best image that we could produce for all of Manitoba. But typically when you become certified in Manitoba, you're going to be a class 5 teacher, and you're going to start with whatever number of years of experience the professional certification unit has identified. And for internationally educated teachers, there have been some recent changes to recognize experience from other jurisdictions. And so you might fall anywhere from 0 to 10 years on the salary grid, and your salary is there on the screen. So MTS also advises members. The work that we do, my colleagues in the teacher welfare department spend a great deal of their time taking calls from members who have job-related issues. And so as a member of the Manitoba Teachers Society, it is important that you know your rights and responsibilities. And also, if you're unsure, you can always call MTS. And again, at the end of this presentation, I'm going to share the contact information for the Manitoba Teachers Society. So, our staff have a strong knowledge of legislation around working conditions and workplace health and safety. So you can, if you're ever unsure of a situation in your workplace, in a school in Manitoba, all you have to do is pick up the phone and give MTS a call, and we're here to support you. Sometimes we get calls from teachers who are working in schools that don't fall under the public school system, and those are not our members. So just to clarify, as the provincial organization that supports public school teachers, we do not provide support or advice to members working in private schools or schools that don't fall under our jurisdiction. We do offer limited support to our student members. So if you're a student or you're in the process of becoming certified, you do have some access to limited services. But we are a member-driven organization, meaning members, teachers, pay fees to be a member of our organization. And so the vast majority of our resources and support in turn support those members. We also have assistance for members through counseling services. And there is a recognition that to be a teacher is a challenging profession. And if we have struggles and challenges in our personal life, that affects our work in schools. And so counseling services are available to teachers and their families. And we also have a disability benefits plan to support members if they are unable to continue working through our disability benefits program. The Manitoba Teachers Society is, as I said early on, supports the welfare of teachers and the status of the professional organization, or the status of the profession. And with that, we offer many different professional development opportunities. And I really encourage you, as you aspire or are navigating your status as a teaching professional, to visit our website and to get involved and find opportunities for professional learning. Some that I'll share today include MTS PD Day, which takes place the 3rd October every year. That is a dedicated day for teachers to pursue their own professional pursuits. We also have special area group of educators, and essentially, if you have an area of interest or a specialty, there is a group of educators who you can connect with. And again, all of that information is on our website. We have a conference every fall for new educators called Fab 5. It's intended for teachers in their first 5 years, and it's a great opportunity to participate in professional development that's tailored for new teachers, and also to be in a space and network with new teachers. A great offering for all new teachers in their first 5 years. And I'll also note, pour ceux qui travaillent en français, que nous offrirons un atelier, un séminaire semblable en français pour nos membres qui travaillent dans des écoles francophones et des écoles d'immersion. Cette conférence s'appelle CELEB 5. So there's a French version and an English version of the Fab 5 conference annually. We have a vast array of workshops and offerings. One last one I'll share is a substitute seminar that is offered at the beginning of the year, every September. I think that it's a great idea to just go to our website, to stay tuned to the Manitoba Teachers Society through social media, to keep up to date on all of the professional opportunities available. So that, in a very quick synopsis, tells you what we do at the Manitoba Teachers Society. I want to transition now to talking about what it means to be a teacher professional, and to really highlight the importance of professional conduct. So to teach is to influence the present and the future. And this quote says that professionalism is about developing a strong shared identity. And it is also to demystify our professional work within communities of practice, and to uphold the social contract with the public who have entrusted us to educate their children. So in essence, what that quote is saying is that as public school teachers, parents, I'm a parent myself, parents and caregivers send their babies, their children, to schools to be educated. And with that, we send a great responsibility. And as educators, we receive children and young people, and we are acting in loco parentis, which means we are acting as parents would, and we are taking care of children with a very high standard. And there's a bit of a social contract there, which means that we are held to a very high standard as teacher professionals. And that social contract is connected to the MTS Code of Professional Conduct. And what you see on the screen is a snapshot from our website where you could find that code. I highly encourage you to go and to find the Code of Professional Practice and to read the 10 articles, because they dictate how the social contract and the expectations for professional conduct are for all educators. They dictate who we are, what we are, and why we do it as teacher professionals. I'm going to talk about 3 articles from the 10 in particular. I'll leave it to you to do your research and to read all 10, but I want to highlight 3 that are very important, and they come up most often in the work that we do supporting members who might have trouble in their work situations. So first and foremost, and it's number 1 for a reason, a member's first professional responsibility is to the member's students. That means that everything we do as teacher professionals, both during the school day and in our private personal lives, we need to be thinking about the students that we are entrusted to educate. And I often say that to be a teacher professional is to be a teacher 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. We always have to be thinking about our decisions and our choices and how they might reflect our work as teacher professionals. I'll talk a little bit more about that in my next slide. Number 6 and 7, Article 6 and 7 of the code are connected. And essentially what they say is that as a member, if you have criticism of the professional activity of a colleague, you are bound to speak to that colleague in private. That means that if I am, as a teacher, if I have a concern with the teaching practice of one of my colleagues in my building, I have to talk to that colleague in private. I cannot go and report my colleague to the school leadership or some other channel. I have to direct my complaint in private and in confidence to my colleague and allow my colleague an opportunity to respond and address my concerns. And only then, if my concern isn't addressed, can I take it to the next step. And I share this because this is number 6 and 7 is what we get the majority of calls from members who are in difficult situations from. Conflict is hard, but the law, through this MTS Code of Professional Practice, directs that we must have those professional conversations with our colleagues. As teacher professionals, we must follow these articles on the job and off the job. So what that means is I'm not currently a teacher in a school, but I am bound by the Code of Professional Practice. And so as a parent, I still must follow the code. And so if I have a concern with my child's teacher, I need to speak to my child's teacher first. I can't jump past my child's teacher and then go directly to the school principal. So whereas my husband, he's not a teacher, he's not bound by the Code of Professional Practice, I have to act in line with the code in everything that I do, both on the job and in my private life. So I'm imagining there might be some questions, and I'm going to save some time for them towards the end of the presentation. Okay, I think this is my last big idea, and I want to talk about just extending the Code of Professional Practice to talk a little bit about boundaries, because this is an area that can be blurred, and I think that there's some gray zones for folks, depending on our own lived experience and the communities that we work in. You know, we want to be mindful of our boundaries with students, for example. So during the day, you want to be careful as a teacher professional in how you're talking to students and how you're allowing students. You know, as a teacher, you would never allow a student to talk about another teacher to you in a negative way. If a student brings up a teacher and has complaint with that teacher, you would need to direct that student to talk to the teacher. Again, there are some exceptions. If a student is disclosing something confidentially, or if the student is in harm, of course, workplace health and safety trumps these boundaries. And we always want to think about the first article of the Code of Professional Practice, which says that we need to do everything in the best interest of our students. But generally speaking, we need to be very cautious about, setting boundaries with students. This extends beyond the school day as well, in terms of connecting with students on social media and communicating with students through social media and through digital platforms. Be very cautious. We always advise teachers to stick with employer-initiated platforms when you're communicating with students. So you shouldn't have any need to give out your cell phone number to students. You should be using whatever platforms the school has provided to communicate with students and with families to protect yourself and to make sure that the boundaries are very clear. When it comes to colleagues and boundaries, be really mindful, both in the school and outside the school, about just your own professional choices in terms of how you communicate. You never know, in a staff room, you might, often we go to a staff room, a school staff room, and we feel like that's a safe place, a place where we can unwind and relax. But you never know who might be sitting at the table and who might be connected to students. So always be mindful of the conversations you're having with colleagues. Maintain that professional conversation. And that extends outside the school, when you're at activities for your family members, or when you're in the grocery store. Make sure that your conversations are always professional. And if you do need to have confidential conversations, that relate to your professional work, that you're having those conversations in a confidential way. When it comes to families, many of my suggestions from students and colleagues apply. I always say, when it comes to communicating with parents and caregivers, to be very cautious about what you put in writing. If you have a difficult conversation that you need to have with a parent, it's always better to pick up the phone and have that conversation, over the phone or face to face. Emails can be very easily misinterpreted, and they can be used against you as a teacher professional, quite frankly. So be very cautious about what you put in writing, and make sure that you stick to clear boundaries between you as a teacher professional and the families that you work with in your schools. For folks that are working in rural communities, the dynamic is different than working in the city of Winnipeg, where you might, in Winnipeg, you might work in one neighborhood and live in another. And so those connections with families are easier to separate. But in a rural setting, in a smaller community, often the families you're teaching are the same families that you're seeing in your social circles. So you have to be very cautious about navigating those. I share all of those, I guess they're advice, tidbits, just to help protect you as teacher professionals as you move forward in pursuing teaching as a profession. What I'm leaving on the screen here is a QR code to a document that is on our website. If you ever had a complaint about a teacher or a principal or any other colleague, and you needed support to navigate that conflict while respecting the Code of Professional Practice, this is a really helpful document to help you navigate difficult situations. So I'll just leave that there if folks want to take a screenshot and take a look at that, that document. And I think that is the end of my presentation. I would imagine that there are some questions as a result of the topics I've just shared. So what I'm leaving for you on the screen is a general line to contact us at the Manitoba Teachers Society if you have questions in the future. And my direct email, if you have questions about anything specific that I said in this presentation. I'm happy to connect with folks. So I will just wait a few moments, and then I'm going to stop sharing my screen and pass it over for the Q&A.
Thank you, Sherry, for that informative presentation. And now we will open it up to the audience. Do we have any questions? Again, please type your questions in the question panel box or raise your hand and we will unmute you so you can ask your question. We welcome both English and French questions and we will try to get through as many as time permits.
Alors, est-ce que nous avons des questions? Encore une fois, veuillez taper vos questions sur le panneau de questions-réponses ou lever la main et nous réactiverons votre micro pour que vous puissiez poser votre question. Nous essaierons d'en traiter autant que le temps le permettra.
Sherry, we have a question in the question panel box. I'm going to read it to you. How long does the certification process typically take and what the factors can impact the timeline?
So thank you for that question. I, as an employee of the Manitoba Teachers Society, just to clarify, MTS does not handle professional certification. And so all of certification inquiries and that process is handled by the Department of Education's Professional Certification Unit. My understanding is that it could take from a couple months to several months, depending on the application and the documents. There could be a delay with processing application requests if all of the required documentation is not provided. But it's very individual, and for folks that are applying with international experience, to be quite frank, that process is a bit more complicated than it is for a teacher who's graduating from an institution within Manitoba.
Mm-hmm. So that could be an answer for the attendees who are who are asking how to get certified? What is the process of becoming a teacher?
So if you are new and looking to become certified, if you have international experience and want to have your credentials assessed, you should reach out to the Professional Certification Unit of the Department of Education. All of the information you would need is online. And I'm sure the folks at Manitoba START could help you, direct you to get that information. But that is your first step, to apply for certification in Manitoba and to have your international credentials assessed, to see where you stand and to see whether you qualify for full certification and can become a teacher professional immediately, or if you would apply for a provisional certificate and there might be some courses that you might need to take to become fully certified, or if there's a larger number of credentials needed, the PCU would advise you what you need to do to become certified.
Thank you so much. And there is another question. What teaching or non-teaching employment options are available for IETs while they work towards certification?
Yeah, thank you. That's a great question. I think that it is very valuable for folks who are interested in becoming teachers and who may have international experience but don't have experience in a Manitoba context. I think it is a great opportunity to seek employment as an educational assistant or even working in childcare settings. We have many childcare centers who are hosted in elementary schools and some high schools, in fact. And so it's a great opportunity to be in a school building, to understand and learn the culture of schools in Manitoba while gaining employment and going through the process. So childcare, educational assistance are some of the opportunities available to folks while they're pursuing the credentialing process.
Thank you so much. And another question is, how can substitute teaching or educational assistant roles help IETs gain experience in Manitoba schools?
Well, that's also another great, the substitute teacher is another great opportunity. So substitute teachers in Manitoba do need to be fully certified. And so that is an expectation that that in schools in Manitoba, we, as an organization, as a professional organization, we advocate that fully certified teachers be working with students. There are some cases where fully certified teachers are not available. And so then school divisions or employers may access uncertified teachers to work in substitute positions. But substitute teaching, the benefit of substitute teaching is that you get to work in more than one school community. And so it requires a little bit more flexibility because you might be going from building to building on different days of the week. But with that, you get to see how things operate in different schools and in different communities. So I really think that substitute teaching is a great opportunity to get to know different communities and schools and learning environments. And as an EA, you might be in a more stable situation working in, a single school, but there are substitute EA positions as well. So, substitute teaching is a great opportunity for folks. And as a professional organization, we are actually working to promote substitute teaching as a viable profession. Because we see the need for substitute teachers and the importance that they bring to a strong education system.
Thank you. And I see one last question here. So please write your questions in the Q&A panel or raise your hand and we will unmute you so you can ask your question. There is a question here. I'm going to read it. As I am a PhD in economics from India, I have done credentials evaluated from WES. Is the certification process of colleagues and universities different from school? I am a newcomer here. I have teaching experience as assistant professor in economics in India.
Thank you for that question. It is very individual. So I would encourage you to send me an email on that one, and I would be happy to respond to you. WES is the recognized organization that assesses international experience. So if you have done your WES certification, you should know where you stand. But if you don't agree with the decision that WES has provided or with the decision that certification has provided, you're welcome to reach out to me and we can help you understand and address your concerns.
Thank you so much. And one last question, Sherry. What advice would you give EATs on preparing for job applications and interviews in the Manitoba education system?
When you say EATs, what acronym is that referencing?
Internationally educated teachers.
Oh, IETs. Okay.
I'm sorry. I'm so sorry.
I wanted to make sure I was answering accurately. You know what? I think that our public education system will be so much stronger if we can increase the number of internationally educated teachers in schools. I think that as much as we need you, you would benefit from learning about the Manitoba context. And so as you prepare to develop your resumes and your profile to apply for positions, I think it's a great idea to develop your skill set and your confidence and understanding of the Manitoba context. When I meet folks who are internationally educated, I meet so many folks who are brilliant and have so much education. They're strong educators. There's no concern there. But across the board, generally what I see is folks who don't have a strong understanding of what it means to be a teacher in Manitoba. And so getting into schools, having those experiences in your tool belt so that when you go to an interview, you can say, I spent time in schools. These were my experiences in Manitoba schools, gives you, I don't know, an upper hand in the recruitment process.
Thank you, Sherry, for joining us today, and thank you to all participants for your excellent questions. I don't see any more questions. If we have more questions, can we reach out to you, Sherry?
Yeah, absolutely. So it's just SJONES at mbteach.org. I'm happy to answer any individual questions, especially the one that was asked. Please follow up with me. I'm happy to support.
Thank you so much. And if you are not currently a Manitoba Start client, you can call our front desk, visit in person, or complete our online registration form that is on our website under For Newcomers tab, Register for Services. You can see if you're eligible here and you can click on this button to register online. By registering with Manitoba Start, you will connect with settlement services and have access to career services that can assist you with resume development, career planning, job search strategies, and interview skills. For a list of programs and services offered by Career Services, go under the Career Services tab of the website. As you can see, we offer many workshops and many resources here. And lastly, please take a look at our events page to stay up to date on our current programs and events. And if you miss a webinar, you can always go to events page and webinar recordings to see the webinar recordings that you've missed.
Et si vous souhaitez être connecté à la communauté francophone pour obtenir du soutien à l'établissement ou à l'emploi, veuillez contacter EDA. J'espère que vous avez trouvé cela utile.
Don't forget that Manitoba Start is here to assist you by providing services such as personalized career coaching, developing your resume, or job search assistance to help you find sustainable employment. Please follow us on social media to stay up to date on our latest events. So on behalf of Sherry from Manitoba Teachers Society and the Manitoba Start team, thank you for attending and stay well.